Toad Harbor is a course that I really prefer to play on 200cc in comparison to 150cc. There's a couple shortcuts that we need to hit on every lap, and these shortcuts are really precise. If you mess them up, your run is basically over, but once you learn how to do them properly, it makes you feel like a Mario Kart god. And fortunately, you've got a 200cc speedrunner here to help you learn about the intricacies of this fun, yet sometimes frustrating course. Welcome to part 54 of Basic Training, where we're going to cover everything you need to know about Toad Harbor on 200cc. As always, we're going to cover the recommended builds, mushroom strats, coin lines, and other advanced tips and tricks to help you start mastering the course. We're going to start with a basic run of the course that exclusively uses non-advanced strategies that you can use to help you tackle the staff ghost. Next, I'll go over the strategies that I use in my current personal best. This is going to be really useful for this track in particular because in many cases the advanced strategies are completely different than the basic strategies. And finally, I'll briefly cover the world record strats. If you're finding these tutorials useful, there's a few ways you can help me out. First and foremost, dropping a like and a comment lets YouTube know that this video is worth watching, which helps my videos get exposure. I'd also appreciate if you could subscribe and hit the notification bell since I release a new video every week. Before watching this video, I highly recommend that you watch my drifting video and my advanced strats video since there's a bit of terminology such as neutral drifting and soft drifting that I borrow from those videos, and if you don't know what those terms mean, you might be a little bit confused. With all that out of the way, let's take a stroll down Toad Harbor. For pretty much every 200cc course, I recommend using Yoshi, Bitty Buggy, Rollers, and Cloud Glider, or whatever the equivalent bits are. The reason for this is that even though this build is quite a bit slower than our usual tryhard build of Waluigi, Bitty Buggy, Rollers, and Paper Glider, it's got way better handling, and so it ends up being quite a bit safer when you're first learning how to play 200cc. But that's enough of the builds, let's check out the track. After getting the startup boost, we want to immediately start a right drift around the grass and build up a super mini turbo. You can choose to build up an extra mini turbo over the bridge if you'd like, but it's not strictly necessary. Then we're going to start another right drift around the barrel turn. Hold a hard right on the joystick for just a second in order to get good alignment around the turn, and then you want to neutral drift as much as possible to maximize your speed. You also want to make sure to widen your drift angle by holding left if you're in danger of running into the wall. You see this little path to the right here? Normally we'd want to take that path since it leads to a nice little shortcut that saves quite a bit of time, but it's a lot harder to do this properly on 200cc in comparison to 150cc, so I'm going to go over this when I walk you through my PB strats. For now, just ignore that path and hug the left wall tightly. The next three turns are basically just alternating left, right, and left drifts while building up an ultra mini turbo, super mini turbo, and regular mini turbo respectively. Once you get to the top of the hill, get ready to start a right drift and then immediately start holding left on the joystick to widen your drift angle. This will allow you to grab a couple of the coins from behind the trolley in a relatively safe manner while still charging up the mini turbos. Grab another coin once you pass the trolley and hold your drift until you build up an ultra mini turbo. After releasing, get to the left hand side of the track so you can take the two orange boost pads here. In between the two boost pads, you'll see two coins, so make sure to grab those. And then once you get to the second boost pad, you want to start a left drift right around the middle of it. And then immediately start holding right so that you can widen your drift angle and grab the two coins in the middle of the track. Keep holding your drift until you build up a mini turbo, and then after releasing, do a single hop to the right so that you don't run into the wall, and then mushroom through the grass to finish up the lap. To quickly recap the coin strats, you're going to grab one coin before the barrel turn, one coin after the barrel turn, two coins from the left, right, left section, two coins right before the trolley and another one right after, and finally 3 or 4 coins from the last big straightaway. If you're missing any coins, you can always grab whatever additional coins you need from the barrel turn and from the left, right, left section. Laps 2 and 3 are going to play out more or less the same as before with two major differences. First, when you get to the trolley turn on laps 2 and 3, you don't really need coins anymore, so hug the right wall as tightly as possible. After starting your right drift, you can more or less neutral drift around this entire turn. This is going to be faster than wiggle drifting to build up an ultra mini turbo for a couple reasons. First of all, like I've mentioned in other videos, wiggle drifting is just generally slower, and this is especially true on 200cc. Second, by the time you build up an ultra mini turbo, the boost is going to carry you all the way through the orange boost pad, and so the ultra mini turbo will get eaten up by the boost from the orange boost pad. Another difference is that on lap 1, after hitting the second boost pad, we had to do a left drift while holding right in order to grab the two coins on the straightaway. But since we don't need coins anymore, Now we can just go straight until right before we get to this little patch of grass. Once you get to the grass, start a right drift and use your mushroom. This will help you get a really good line through the entire mushroom cut while maximizing the utility of the mushroom. Let's take a look at how all this is put together in a full run. Alright, let's go over some of the strategies that I use in my current personal best. Like I mentioned, the track plays very differently than what we just went over, and we're seeing that at the very start of the run here. Instead of drifting around the grass, I do what's called a no-item shortcut or NISC over the grass. It's not really that difficult to learn. Basically all you have to do after starting your drift at the beginning of the run is hold left on the joystick to widen your drift angle a little bit, and then start neutral drifting before the grass. Keep your joystick in neutral so that you neutral hop over the grass. And yes, it's very important that the hop is a neutral hop, otherwise you'll lose a lot of speed and either clip the front of the grass or land on the back of it, which kind of defeats the purpose of doing the NISC in the first place. Then once you clear the grass, take the orange boost ramp on the left and you'll be able to clear the entire gap. Now I said that the NISC isn't that hard to learn, and while that is true, it can be kind of a pain in the ass to execute, and if you mess it up at all, either by clipping the box or else by hitting the grass, it really screws up your run. So if you're finding that this neutral hop strategy is giving you a lot of problems, another thing that you can do is just soft drift over the grass and build up a super mini turbo, and then once you get that super mini turbo, release and do a left hop, and then just go over the bridge like in the non-advanced version of the run. It doesn't really lose you that much time, but it is a hell of a lot safer. The next thing we need to go over is the alternate path shortcut. As you start approaching it, do a left drift and then start holding right on the joystick just a little bit to make sure that you actually get up onto the alternate path. Drift around the path here and then you want to release a super mini turbo as soon as you get it. This is because the turn around the alternate path is really tight, and if you release your super mini turbo too late, you won't have enough time to make sure that you're angled properly to do the next part of the strat. Now just before you get to the orange boost ramp, you want to hop and then keep holding the drift button and right on the joystick. What will happen is that you'll land on the ramp, which will shoot you into the air and help you land on the shortcut path below, while still allowing you to maintain your drift. This is nice because you can actually charge up mini turbos in midair so that as soon as you land you'll have one built up. This will allow you to release the mini turbo and get through the rest of the path at full throttle. A slightly less advanced version of this strategy is to go straight off the ramp without any of the hopping nonsense. Now, you still do want to start holding the drift button and right on the joystick when you get into the air, so that when you land, you'll immediately start your drift. But now, you must start holding down the brake button, or else you'll run face first into the wall. Here's how both strats look at full speed, and pay attention to the brake sounds in the second clip. Now if you exit the path at anywhere before 17 or 18 seconds, that trolley with the coins will be pretty close to you after you make your way up the hill. So rather than drift around the left side of the trolley, what you can do is actually start your right drift and hold left on the joystick to widen your drift angle. Then, instead of drifting around the left-hand side of the trolley, we can actually drift around the right-hand side of the trolley while still grabbing the 2 coins, and finish up the turn with a combination of neutral and wide drifting. The rest of the lap is going to play out pretty much the same as before, except that you'll probably need to pay attention to the position of the trolley when using your mushroom so that you don't run into it after taking the cut. Laps 2 and 3 are basically identical to lap 1. The world record looks really similar to my PB with a couple of major differences. The first difference is the build. The current world record uses Wario, Blue Falcon, Crimson Slim, and Super Glider, which is a build that goes balls to the wall in favor of ground speed over mini turbo. The reason for this is that there really aren't that many places in this track where you can build up a bunch of mini turbos, and in the places where you can, you're almost always building up the same level of mini turbo with the Wario build as you would be doing with the Waluigi build. So the extra mini turbo from the Waluigi build just ends up not being very useful. The reason I don't recommend using this build is that the handling is quite a bit worse, which makes it a lot more difficult to use than the Waluigi build. The first major difference in strategy is with the very first Nisk. The grass cut itself is more or less the same, but rather than trick straight off the ramp like I do, the world record actually does a right slide, which is basically just a drift without a mini turbo, and then tricks off the ramp. There's 2 reasons for this. First of all, it helps you get a better line around the barrel turn. But second of all, the right slide actually gives you faster airspeed when you get off the ramp, which saves about 1/10 of a second. The reason that I don't do it is because it's actually pretty hard to do this strat properly in a way that saves that 1/10 of a second. And this is especially true on lap 1 because if you don't do it properly, you're not going to have enough speed to clear the whole gap and then you're just going to fall into the water. The other major difference between my run and the world record run actually occurs at the very beginning and very end of the run. You may have noticed that the world record uses a mushroom at the very start of the track. This is done by holding down the mushroom button before the run actually starts. This will cause the mushroom to come out on the very first possible frame. Now the reason for doing this is that it allows you to get to top speed immediately. You might be wondering how we're going to do the last mushroom cut without a mushroom. Well, just take a look. This is a huge pain in the ass to learn how to do properly because not only is the angle fairly precise, but you basically have to do what seems to be a frame perfect hop to make sure not to lose any speed after landing on the grass. And that's everything you need to know about Toad Harbor on 200cc. I hope that you all enjoyed the video and found it useful. As always, don't forget to drop a like and a comment to let me know what you thought. And also, don't forget to check out the other videos in the series. I'm not super big on social media outside of YouTube, but if you follow me on Twitter at BasicMK8, I have a list of all the videos that I plan on releasing through the end of the year. Thank you very much for taking the time out of your day to do some basic training, and as always, I will see you in the next one.